Welcome to The Hard Way, hosted by best-selling author, business columnist, and coach, Rhett Power. The Hard Way is about failure, struggle, and how people overcome great obstacles to become successful. This episode is brought to you by Power Coaching and Consulting. Whether you want to motivate your employees, define a career path, or develop effective communication and leadership skills, Power Coaching can help provide customized coaching services to improve your effectiveness and your results. Power Coaching and Consulting. Focused, practical, insightful advice. Schedule your free initial consultation today at www.powercoachinggroup.com. Rhett's guests have overcome enormous challenges to reach their goals, and we will find out specifically how they did it. Now it's time to dig deep and get answers on how to turn failure and hard times into success. Now, your host, Rhett Power.
Welcome to The Hard Way. I'm Rhett Power. The Hard Way is about failure, struggle, how people overcome great obstacles to become successful. We're going to dig deep and get answers on how to turn failure and hard times into success. Specific actions and answers to those questions. This week I have Sylvester Chisom. Sylvester and I met a few years ago. I consider him a friend. And there's so much to talk about, Sylvester. Your latest book, Manifest Greatness. I mean, you're a serial entrepreneur, motivational speaker. Your work with any inner city kids, I think, is really inspiring, where you take them on international trips. You've got a new social enterprise that's working to do that. Sylvester, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to talk, I've got a lot of questions, but I want to talk about, you're one of the most inspiring people I know, and I want to talk about your new project, Manifest Greatness, your new book. But how do you, with so much negative in the world, so much negative, you get up every day and there's, more negative out there. How do you wake up every day and stay as positive as you do, man? You've got such a positive message.
Well, first, I'm humbled by you saying that. Thank you. That's the way you view it. But I try to be very intentional. I'm very intentional about what I expose myself to. There's so many things, within the external world, the environment. Like you said, you cut the TV on, or you run into some negative person in traffic or something like that you can't account for. But the things that we can control and account for, I really try to be intentional about that. So part of my morning routine, I start with the little meditation and prayer, and focusing on starting the day with gratitude. That's actually something that I got from Tony Robbins, with being intentional about the way you start your day. So I really try to start my day with focusing on things that I'm grateful for, so that I appreciate all the great things that I do have going in my life and the things that I care about, and also feed myself with a lot of inspiration. Like, I believe that's very important. So some of that time that you're driving in the car, or the music you choose to listen to, maybe turn on a podcast, or turn on something that inspires you, or listen to an educational YouTube video. These are the things that I do personally to constantly try to expose myself to inspiration and things that are going to help me accomplish the goals that I have for the day, for the week, and just in life overall, and then also the things that are going to just motivate me and inspire me, so that I'm not spending my time with too much focus on the negativity, or allowing things like politics or something else to control what it is that I'm doing. I try to control the things that I can, and that's with, like I said, I really just focused a lot on the content, the things that I try to feed myself with, but then also the people I spend my time with. I'm intentional. I only really want positive people around me and people who are helping me to get better. We can't always control that. Sometimes we have to deal with some negative people in our life, maybe in the workplace or in business or customers or whatever. But at the same time, you can be intentional about the people that you choose to go to dinner with, lunch with, and also the third part of that too is the places that I choose to go. I try to set myself up and put myself in environments that feed me inspiration and help make good connections and things that are encouraging and just positive overall. And so when I do all of that, that's kind of like crafting my environment to have something that allows me to to be in a happier place, and also to be in a more successful place, to create more greatness.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think the people that you surround yourself with and the things that you talk to yourself about give you so much power. I want to go back a second, though. Is there specifics that you do in the morning, say when you get up? Is there sort of a routine that lets you sort of start your day out right?
Yeah, so I wake up usually around somewhere between 6 and 6:30. Like even without an alarm clock, that's just what time I'm waking up. My body has its own alarm clock. I wish I had that when I was in college, but now brother. 6:30 I'm up. And so, but before I get out of the bed, I'll probably sit there in bed for maybe 10 minutes. And within that 10 minutes, I'm a very spiritual guy, so I'll say a prayer, and just it's really more about just being thankful. And I just try to start the day off with being thankful. And that's something we could get so caught up in what we're trying to get and chase and more and more and more. But I've learned that I find myself to be in a happier space when I start off with gratitude. So that's what I do. So and then I'll try to meditate on speaking some positive things over myself. I'll tell myself, it may sound a little crazy, but I'll tell myself, you're capable, you're powerful, you're smart. Like, these are things that I just repeat them in my head and say it to myself. And then I also say to myself, give your gifts to the world. Today, let's go out and give your gifts to the world. And these are things that I'm just speaking over myself as I'm just laying in the bed. And then the part that I really got from, I mentioned it earlier, from Tony Robinson, from Tony Robbins. He has a whole thing on state change and this and that. And I talk a little bit about it in my book, but the gratitude part, I think about 3 things that I'm grateful for. And whether that's family, it could be my mom, my sister, it could be a business partner, it could be just health, anything, whatever is important to me or what pops in my head at the time. And then I get up and I go and usually I'll start. I do watch the news, so I am going to watch what's going on in politics. I usually start with the Today Show. I watch that in the morning, and then I'll also watch ESPN, and then I'll also watch CNBC to see what's going on in the business world. So those are usually my 3 things once I start to kind of get a check in on what's going on in the world. So yeah, that's usually how I start my day, and then usually with the workout as well. So,
well, that's great. And that, I'm writing a book now on the power of self-talk, and I'm glad you said that because it really just reiterates the point that I think the way that you talk to yourself can give you power, or it can really hurt. It can really hurt what you're able to accomplish. So, the next question that sort of pops into my mind then is, we talked about before about your early part of your business in St. Louis, and you had you were like early 20s. You've got a huge contract with the post office to do to do their trucks or their vehicles. And then you lost that contract, and we were talking about how that really impacted you at that young of age. You sort of built this really growing business, and then all of a sudden you have this huge setback. And some people folded up and quit when they had that first big setback, right? You didn't do that, and so what was your mindset when that happened? I know you probably had to let some people know that they you no longer had any work for them. How did you get through that, and what were you telling yourself, and how did you kind of power through that when other people would just fold up and quit?
Well, I've always, and I guess this kind of goes back to my parents and early mentors. I'm not a quitter, so that's in my DNA. That's just how I was built. That's how I was raised. So I'm not going to quit on my team. I'm not going to quit on my business. I'm not going to quit on my beliefs. And so when we had that early setback, it it built within me as a businessman. It built it increased, I guess, my level of shrewdness in understanding that this is like what it takes. Is if it was that easy, everyone would be a hugely successful entrepreneur. And this is the stuff that's not so sexy that people don't talk about. Like we hear the startups and great, oh, this person raised this and that, but like the reality is that business kind of ebbs and flows. And some customers, if you kind of do some research, and this is, I don't know if this data still falls true to today, but I had read something that if you keep a client for like 3 years, then you should give yourself a pat on the back for that, because that's kind of like the life expectancy of in certain businesses. But so, and we had done business with these people for quite some time. So I just had to understand and appreciate that, like, okay, that was good while I was there, but we have to grow and learn from it. And one of the biggest lessons I learned too is that when you look at, you get a big client, you land something big, if it's taking up a large percentage, of, or responsible for a large percentage of the revenue that's coming in, that should make you a little nervous.
Right, because you were saying that it's like it was 70% of your business, or 70%
at the
of your
time.
business.
Yeah, I mean, we were just starting out, and so that was our big break, our first big break. And so the good thing about it, we did not sit back on our heels, and so we had other irons in the fire that we were working on, and so some of those came in, and so that was good, and that helped us to sustain, and we were able to move some people around to other jobs, to other job sites, but we still had to let some people go, and that was tough for me emotionally, as an entrepreneur, and just as someone who cares about people, and someone who takes the philosophy of these people work with me, not for me. Like I really felt responsible for that, and
right.
and that hurt me. But I just tried to do my best, and we were able to bring some of those guys back, over the years. But it made me realize when I get a good business deal, we have to stay hungry for more, in the sense that we don't want one person or one client, one setback for somebody else to impact our business in such a great way. And then also it helped me to be more upfront too, and just like, hey man, this is what it is. I'm sorry that this is how the chips have failed for us, but we have to go a different way, and you may need to look for work somewhere else right now. And that's, people at the end, once they maybe get over the emotional part, they appreciate you just being upfront with them and letting them know. Yeah, that was a big setback for me, man. But trying to get over it, in terms of that part, really trying to get over it, I've always felt like in the end, as long as we keep running the race, we're running the marathon here. If we're doing good work, we're putting the customers first, we're always looking for new opportunities and looking for ways to do better and improve service, then we will receive more. We will receive more. The law of reciprocity will work out in our favor, and it has. And one of those, I do read a lot and listen to a lot of other successful people. And one of the quote, it reminds me of a quote that from Ted Turner, and he says that success is built upon failure and frustration. You just have to know it's part of the game. And that's when I said, when I was speaking of the shrewdness that I kind of developed, and just understanding that, hey, it's good. We're making an impact, and we were making money with these people for a while, and let's just celebrate and appreciate that, and just know that like there's more, and there's a new door. When one door closes, another one will open.
I'd say though, when you talk about that, I don't know if it's shrewdness. It's a maybe just an understanding of how things really work, right?
Yeah.
Or it was sort of your PhD in early on how to how the world works, and developing the sort of emotional intelligence, or the just the understanding of how it works, and what that you just got to keep moving on, and I think that's a valuable lesson. I think probably that it happened early was probably, it got to have been a big help to you.
I guess, yeah, let me make sure I'm defining the way I'm saying shrewdness in that space. Maybe you're right. I think your word choice is better there, but I meant it from a place of when you can never get too high or never get too low.
Right.
Like, that's basically what I'm saying. It's like, okay,
right.
So now it's like, oh, hey, Sylvester, we want you to come and do this big thing over here in Paris or this or that. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm excited, yes. But I know that there is a possibility that they may call back and we've negotiated everything and say, well, I'm sorry that the deal has fallen through. So I'm not going to be upset if that happens, because
it's realistic. It's realism, right? It's
realism.
It is what it is, man, and that's how it happens. And I think that's great. I mean, it helps you sort of maintain that steadiness that people look, as a leader and as the head of the company, that's what people are looking for, right?
Yes, sir.
So, you talked a little bit about your parents earlier. What in you, why are you so driven? What makes you so driven to be successful, and who gave you, and who influenced you and gave you that self-confidence that you have? I think one of the things that defines successful people that I've spoken to and worked with is they have just this inner self-confidence that is present, and you've got that. And so where do you think that comes from? Is it your upbringing, your parents, or is it just innate in people? What do you think?
I think there's a part of that. I'll say that some people do have a natural level. I feel like a natural level of just self-confidence, no matter how they look, how smart they are, how tall or short, body weight, whatever the case may be. They just have a natural amount of confidence. However, I do feel like it is something that can and should be nurtured. And that's a big part where parents and mentors and when we become conscious of it, choosing to surround ourselves around people who are going to say, oh, keep going, great job, great idea, keep going. But for me, when I go back to the root of it, it definitely was my mother. My mother, I've had great mentors, but just my mother being there every day and just seeing her go to work as a single mother who had two kids and put both of us through college as an entrepreneur, as a single parent and as an entrepreneur. My mother, she owns a hair salon here in St. Louis, Professional Touch Salon, but she's known what she's wanted to do since she was 12 years old. As a little girl, she was like braiding hair on the stoop of the front of her house, making her own money since she was 12. Wow. Since she was 12 years old. Like, just to show the perspective, she's so funny. She told me a story when she was like in middle school, high school, one of those. She's like, she's always had that entrepreneurial spirit. She said that she was in junior achievement and she said she quit the junior achievement because she's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, we're building all this stuff, we're making all this stuff, and then we're selling it, but then we don't get to keep any of the money. I just don't understand it. Like, it doesn't. She's like, this is not how it works, So, bro, she's like, I can do this on my own. So she's like, but she's always known what she's wanted to do since she was a little girl, and just growing up in that environment, she always invested in my ideas with her words and just sharing knowledge and trying to do her best to push me to do more and to go further than what she has. And then as a little boy growing up in the hair salon, at 5 years old, she had me answering the telephone, hello, well, thank you for calling Professional Touch Salon, or opening the door for the ladies, or taking the trash out. So it just became like a natural thing in terms of the confidence and seeing how hard work does pay off. When you have a good attitude, you want to help and you want to serve others. She's always instilled that in me, that to be a person of service and to try to help other people with my gifts and with my talents, and we're supposed to use those gifts and talents. So she's always pushed that on me, and also has always been very supportive as well.
It's almost more of the example she set than any one word or thing that she said, right? I mean, I think that's incredible, and I think kind of segues into the sort of this next question. And you've talked a little bit about other people who've inspired you. And I want to get back to that. But one quick thing is, we talked about your early morning routine and what you do to sort of get in the right headspace every morning. Are there some specific actions that on a day-to-day basis, we were talking before we came on about staying on track or sort of doing things to stay organized and focused. Are there things that you do every day that help you stay focused and not go down some rabbit hole on social media, watch cat videos, on Facebook or something? Are there things that you do to sort of keep you in that, just so that you accomplish what you want to do on a daily basis? Or is it, a to-do list, or how do you manage yourself in that way?
Yeah. Okay. So I've noticed this about myself and others, and I try to be very intentional about the amount of inspiration and knowledge that I consume, as well as the amount of information and knowledge that I go and apply and the action that I take. I think we have to find that balance. And for me, it's almost about 50-50. Like I try to consume a lot of content and learn lessons of how to better use social media and, how to be a better manager or how to work on to be a better communicator. But it's not just consuming that information. We have to go and apply it and take action. That's the only thing that's going to really create the breakthroughs for us. Right. And I'm a firm believer in that. That's what's going to push us to get closer to our goals. It's like, okay, let's figure out the science behind it, but then we have to apply that knowledge. So
right.
One of the things that I do, and I talk about this in Manifest Greatness, is I try to work off this philosophy called the Power of Five.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What is that? It's about the Power of Five is about doing 5 things a day toward reaching your goal, no matter how big or small they are. So, and it's about helping to push, and I'm sure you see this all the time, like people who had these big ideas, but I want to write a book and this and that, and then you see them 12 months later, and it's like, how's that book coming? It's like, oh yeah, I still want to write it. You haven't done anything. You haven't taken any action. So it's about helping us to get going and move past any sort of paralysis that's set in place for us. So for me, the 5 things is about no matter how big or small they are, as long as they're helping toward reaching that goal, then they count. So for me, a goal of mine is to get my book and to do speaking engagements all across the world, all across the country. So 5 things could be: 1 could be sending a tweet saying, hey, I'm here, #entrepreneurship, right? It counts. It's small, but it counts. It's about getting the action going. Something two could be doing research, Google searching something. It counts as long as it's going toward the goal. 3 could be maybe something bigger, like recording a YouTube video on how to be a better communicator or something, right? That counts. 4 could be reaching out to a school district in Florida. 5 could be giving an actual keynote presentation somewhere. So I'm just trying to show the different levels of the small to the larger things, but they all count the same. You have to give them all credit. But then what happens is you do 5 things today. Let's say you only do it 5 days a week. That's 5 times 5, that's 25 things within a week that you've done, all centered around that one goal. Multiply that times 4. You've done 100 things toward reaching that goal, and then that compounds. You get that compound effect, and over time, you create a body of work that's all centered around achieving one goal. And what happens, the outside world is like, oh man, Red's killing it. Like, oh, he's got his
right.
podcast going, and he's got his new book, and he's here, and he's in Asia, and he's all over. But they don't see that, like, no, Red's putting in work every single day toward reaching that goal, no matter how big or small. The little things, like figuring out what's the best type of way to record a podcast, like that counts.
Right.
But it's small. But some people don't give that credit to the small things that are moving toward reaching that goal. And I see it as like, how do you climb a mountain? Is one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. and eventually we will, we will rise. You will see an impact. You will see results from that.
There's a psychological benefit too, right? Because
Yes.
when you start checking off those things every day toward a major goal, you start getting those little victories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you talk about compounding. I mean, your confidence grows. You see you getting closer to that goal, and I think there's got to be a real benefit, a real psychological benefit for me anyway, to sort of seeing checking those big things off the list, and I think that's really powerful. Now, do you do that with? So, do you break down your major goals in that way? Is that how you do it?
That's how I do it. Yeah, and I break down like each goal in that same way. Like,
Okay.
so if it's let's say if it was a fitness goal, then I will break it down. Okay, what are the 5 things that I've done today toward reaching that? If it's a household thing, same way. If it's a business or career goal,
Okay.
like I was just speaking of. So it's all about taking action. It's really, that's all it's about. It's a way to get me to stay focused on taking action, because so many people are like, oh, I don't know if I have enough information yet. I'm not ready yet. But like, no, you have to take some action. Otherwise,
You'll never be ready. You'll
never be ready. And there's no the perfect time is always right now. That's the perfect time. It's not a perfect moment that's somewhere in the future. It's like the perfect time is now to always take some action toward working on things. And then I get excited. I know that it works because I'm seasoned. I've been doing this since I was 17 years old in terms of being like an entrepreneur. So I know that eventually
you don't have to get into
reciprocity,
your age.
yeah, the law of reciprocity will work in your favor. Like, you will be rewarded for putting out good energy and good work. And then that's how you get that random phone call that you're like, what? I can't believe they want to do what? Or who called me? The Wall Street
right.
Journal? Like, what? Like, so, but it's not, it is a lucky break, but it's a lucky break because you deserve it, because you've been working hard and putting in the work, and someone's watching somewhere.
Right, somebody took notice, and somebody saw it, and
Absolutely.
So it's not lucky, really. The word lucky break drives me crazy, because there's nothing in business anyway, I think, is luck. I think you put in the work and the time and you make good decisions, and I think good things can happen. So sort of wrapping things up, a couple things. What are there any books that you're reading right now that you recommend to the listeners?
Yeah, there are a few that have been impactful for me. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. That's like an all-time classic favorite for me. Og Mandino, The Greatest Salesman. That's a great one for me. There's one that I'm reading now that I'm really enjoying. It's called The Original: How Nonconformists Move the World. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but
no, I
think you would like.
I'm going to write it down.
I think you would. I think you would like that one. And then probably my favorite that I've read in the last couple of months, man. This guy's a phenomenal author. It's called Entrepreneur's Book of Actions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this guy's name's Rhett Power. I think you can find it on Amazon.
I think you probably can. Thank you.
It's pretty solid. It's pretty solid.
Well,
but no, seriously, that's great. That's a great book. And then I'm constantly trying to feed myself with good information.
Where do you go to get it? What you got any of those kind of recommendations? Because I love a good podcast or a good,
There's a guy I like his format, Evan Carmichael,
okay,
on YouTube, and what he'll do, he'll take someone, say like Steve Jobs, and he'll do a top 10 lessons from Steve Jobs, and what he does is finds all these Steve Jobs interviews and cuts them up into points, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
wow. Okay.
And he's done this for just about everyone.
Very cool.
From Muhammad Ali to Puff Daddy to Oprah to anyone that we can think of that's a big name who you may be a little curious about.
Mm-hmm.
he's done that. And what I love about him too is that he's consistent. And I know, as you know too, as an entrepreneur, that consistency. You don't have to be the greatest speaker or the smartest person. That consistency always wins.
Absolutely.
And he's winning. So I like following his journey.
So real quick, tell people about. I do want to give you a chance to talk about Manifest Greatness and where they can get that. And I think you gave us a big tip from the book. But any more about Manifest Greatness you want to talk about, and then. I'd love to hear quickly about the international stuff that you're doing with the social enterprise with it's in Costa Rica, the Show Me Costa Rica Coffee Company. Tell me about that. Tell us about that.
Okay, well, so in terms of the book, Manifest Greatness that's the title of my new book, and I'm really trying to push that in terms of a lifestyle movement where we can do a self-check daily and really asking ourselves, are we manifesting greatness throughout the day and every moment? And it's about applying the entrepreneurial mindset to your life to increase success in your work, in your life, and in school. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's just kind of developed over time for me. Kind of like yourself, I may do 40 speaking engagements a year all across the country, some international stuff. And it started off as me sharing my journey about what it's like to be an entrepreneur and how to start a business. But what I started to realize over time with sharing more content and speeches is that it's really the principles that make an entrepreneur successful can work and be applied to any other person who is not an entrepreneur. If you just want to be better in your relationships, if you want to be a better business partner, co-worker, family man, whatever the case may be, like if you apply these principles of being consistent, having self-confidence, letting your actions come from the heart, shipping your ideas, all these things create more success in whatever it is that you're interested in. And I really believe that it's something that also the World Economic Forum said, that entrepreneurship is really a 21st century skill, and it's something that should not be just focused solely and be housed in business, in the world of business, but it's something that everyone should really think about in understanding the principles and the philosophy that makes an entrepreneur successful, and figuring out how to apply those same principles and philosophies to your life. And so far we've got schools using it, colleges. It's off to a really good start. There's also a TED Talk on my website about it too. But so
excellent.
Yeah. But in part of that, like it just for me, like I've come to realize that we should all focus more on the give than the get, and really just trying to give and give more, giving all your gifts and ideas to the world. And this is a great example of how entrepreneurship can be used to help solve problems or to help solve social issues. I think as we look forward in the future, we'll see more entrepreneurship being used more in that way, like as a tool to solve some social problems. So one of the things that we know is important, because you're a world traveler, but like going other places, it opens up your perspective and helping you to understand your place in the world, and to see that there are different ways of doing things, and to really appreciate your place as a global citizen. And so there's this organization called the Show Me Costa Rica Project, and it's based out of St. Louis, where we take inner city kids. It was started by this lady, this beautiful teacher, Samantha Lohr. She's a phenomenal person. But it's about taking inner city kids from St. Louis public schools, and Riverview is another inner city place here. But we take these students to Costa Rica every year to learn about science, technology, engineering, math, global culture. So it's really it's just so engaging and so inspiring to see these kids' faces when we're going through the rainforest and climbing volcanoes and all these, snorkeling in the Pacific Ocean on the coral reef and all these different first time experiences for people who may not get this opportunity, but we have to fundraise a lot of money to do it. And so like this year we're taking 32 kids from 4 different high schools, and we have to raise right about $90,000 before we go. We're going in May. And so over the last 5 years we've raised over about 200,000, and we've taken 55 kids. And to see the impact is crazy, because you have kids that are now who've gone on some of those earlier trips, who are studying STEM-based careers in college, doing some other international travel, all because of that. And a lot of them are the first to travel internationally in their family, first to own a passport, all these different things. But some of the best coffee in the world comes from Costa Rica.
Yes, it does indeed.
Yeah. So we got the ideas like, hey, we were bringing all this coffee back to share with people as souvenirs, and everyone loved it so much. I'm like, okay, well, the kids will be like, well, how about we figure this out? And so now we're importing coffee from farms, from local Costa Rican farmers in Costa Rica.
The kids are doing
and
this.
Yes, the kids are running this business. Yeah, I'm just kind of like helping to oversee, but man, yeah, they're the ones with the boots on the ground. Yeah, totally. So we're importing some of the it's premium coffee, specialty coffee, high grown from Costa Rica, and we sell it every week at the farmers markets here, and it's so crazy to see. Every week we sell out. Every week the kids sell out.
That's incredible.
People support it. Then now we've shifted. We got the website launched, so people are buying it online at showmecostarricacoffee.com. Then also the kids go out with order forms similar to like Girl Scout cookies and that sort of thing.
Nice.
So it's amazing to see how it's impacting them. It's impacting the project, the Show Me Costa Rica project, for them to learn, adding that entrepreneurial piece to it. So it's not just like, hey, Rhett, can you give us $15? But we would rather you support and and let some of your coffee budget go to a good cause. So kind of like a Time Shoes, but for your coffee.
Well, what is there a web address? I know you mentioned a web address a second ago, but is there a web address so that people can buy the coffee online and support it?
Yeah, showmecostarricacoffee.com.
Okay.
Showmecostarricacoffee.com.
That's awesome, man. That's incredible. And man, they get to go to a beautiful place because Costa Rica is just amazing. Well, Sylvester, man, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure to get to speak and catch up. And thank you for listening, and thank you for spending some time with us today. Next week, we have another great show lined up, so stay tuned and check us out. My final thought and question for you to think about this week is, are you living an authentic life? Are you living an authentic life? And if not, how can you make the changes you need to be happier in work and in your personal life? Check out one of my recent articles on the subject on Inc.com. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for joining us on The Hard Way. You can listen to previous episodes on iTunes and on our website at powercoachinggroup.com. Tune in next week for more focused, practical, insightful advice and for answers on how to turn failure in hard times into success.